What are the 12 stages of burnout? That's what we're going to be covering in this video. You may have seen lots of memes, lots of images, lots of social graphics, infographics about these 12 stages. Want to be able to go through them with you today in a little bit more detail so that you understand them, and to give you a little bit more information about where they came from and why they are talked about so readily. So, the 12 stages were created by two psychologists, Herbert Freudenberger and Gail North. They created this 12 stages of burnout model. But I think it's important to note that when they created it purely with professionals in mind. So those of us that are working in professional roles, that's where they got to in their thinking. When the World Health Organization defined burnout in 2019, they defined it as chronic workplace stress. So this workplace syndrome that was causing stress, chronic stress within the workplace. In 2020, as a result of the 2019 World Health Organization definition, there was lots of additional research, but there was a tool that was created called the Burnout Assessment Tool. And the research that sat behind that was basically talking about the fact that burnout, we believe, can impact more than just those of us that work, right? Anybody can be impacted by burnout. And what we know is, from my own experience, again, with all of the clients that I've worked with, and what this research tells us is that we can also experience burnout without being employed. The work, the role, does not have to be the reason for burnout. So I'm going to caveat that at the start of today's video. We're talking about the 12 stages of burnout as they have been created. These are the 12 stages of burnout that you will likely have seen all over your social media feeds, but it is important to note that they are specifically relating to workplace burnout. Okay, specifically relating to workplace burnout. And I'm also going to caveat and give a warning again that if you feel you are experiencing these 12 stages, if you've watched any of my previous videos about the signs and symptoms of burnout, if you are concerned at all about your physical, mental, or emotional health, please start by speaking to a medical practitioner, your GP, speak to a therapist, speak to a professional. I'm trained in a number of therapies, but I do not say that I practice as a therapist. I work as a coach, and I have skills that relate to therapy. So I want to make that very clear, but I do not position myself as a therapist, nor can I diagnose. I can talk about the risks, I can talk about all of those things, but I want to caveat all of these, particularly in the world of technology that we're in at the moment, right? We can watch YouTube videos, self-diagnose, and say these are the things that we have got. And I want to make it very, very clear that if you are worried about anything, go and speak to your medical provider. I'm not going to say that they will know everything that there is to know about burnout, but they are the ones that can diagnose, and then you can start to look at what you want. I want to get to a place in the world of work where we can fully prevent burnout, which is why I talk about it so much, why I do everything that I do. I am Kelly Swingler. I am the Burnoutologist. My first burnout in 2013 made me seriously ill. I now live with 3 lifelong health conditions. My second burnout in 2015, get my teeth in straight, my second burnout in 2015 almost killed me. But the driving force behind why I now do all of the work that I do was when I received the phone call to tell me that my replacement had died. So I was working in a large organization. I was a director within the organization, sat at the board level, and I received a phone call to tell me that my replacement had died in her sleep whilst away on a leadership residential. 2 days later, I received a phone call that told me I was not the first, I was not the second, nor was I the third director in this role to have experienced really serious health issues in this role. And this is why I now do what I do, because I believe that we can prevent burnout. And whilst I can help with recovery and I can support with recovery, I would rather none of us got to this point in the first place. So this is why I do the work that I do. This is why my business exists. I do not want anybody jeopardizing their health or well-being or experiencing burnout, because I know we can prevent it. Quite simple. It's as simple as that for me. Okay. Let's get into then our 12 stages. So as I said, these have been created by psychologists, specifically really relating to professionals. The World Health Organization definition of burnout, which has been challenged by many of us that work in the space, says that we believe burnout does not just impact us at work, but this is what these 12 stages refer to. Okay. So hopefully enough of an introduction for you on that point. So the 12 stages that we've got, the first stage is this compulsion to prove ourselves, right? Your compulsion to prove yourself. Feeling like you constantly have to demonstrate your worth. You don't feel that you're good enough. You don't feel that you're getting recognized for anything that you do. Even if you are recognized, you don't feel that you've done a good enough job. You know, you're shrugging off and brushing off any kind of congratulations, any kind of praise. And yet you are still feeling like you have to continue to prove yourself. So if I say to you, oh, Kelly, you did a really great job of that. Well, I didn't. You know, I'm not worthy of congratulations or praise or recognition or any kind of reward. And so I start to feel like I have to work harder, because I want you to really mean thank you when you say thank you. So it's like I need to feel, or you need to feel, that you've worked as hard as you possibly can. It's like you have to you literally have to earn the recognition. And I think many of us, when we kind of at this first stage, we can brush, well, I didn't do anything special. You know, I didn't do anything special. It's just me, right? It's just what I do. And yet at the same time, we're constantly trying to prove ourselves. And that in itself can be a real battle, because people are saying, you've just done an amazing job. And you're going, no, I feel like I have to prove myself even more. I have to prove that I'm qualified enough, skilled enough, knowledgeable enough, ready enough, sociable. You know, I have to continue to keep proving my worth. So this can be stage 1 of the burnout cycle, and they do build. So we're starting with stage 1 and we're going to build up to stage 12. They will work in sequence. I'll also point out to this, you might not go through every single stage. You might not go through all 12 stages. But typically, when this research was created to create these 12 stages, this is what was being seen as common stages for people, for professionals who were reaching burnout. Okay, so the first one is the compulsion to prove yourself. Always feeling like you have to prove your worth. The second one is this working harder. And again, I've touched on this in quite a few of my previous videos, actually, but almost becoming this work addict. Like I have to keep on working. And if today I did 8 hours, tomorrow I need to do 8.5. Like we feel we need to be present all the time. I've got to work harder. I've got to work longer. If I manage to complete that task in a day, next time I need to be able to do double the amount of work. I need to be pushing, learning, striving, doing everything that I possibly can to keep on working. So we start working harder and we begin to become addicted, as it says here in the little bunnies that we've got there. But we begin to become addicted to work. It's like work becomes our one and only fuel. But we find other fuels, as we will find out as we go through these. So number 3 then is that we begin to neglect our own needs, right? So we start to neglect our eating, our sleeping. We maybe start to withdraw from things, and we begin to have this kind of lack of social interaction. So actually, where maybe I used to eat 3 really healthy meals, right? I get out of bed, might do a little bit of exercise, I might go for a walk, I might do all of these wonderful things. You start with my breakfast, then I have a really, lovely, tasty lunch. I make sure that I'm taking my lunch break. I have an amazing dinner. It's all home cooked, all these foods, kind of home cooked, lovely, nutritious, natural meals, because I know these things are really good for me. But then maybe I start skipping breakfast and we start skipping lunch, and maybe we don't have dinner, or we haven't really got the energy to cook, so we grab a takeaway. Or we start overeating. Because we're working harder and we're feeling like we've got to constantly prove ourselves, and then maybe we start to change some of our eating habits. We're then sleeping less. Maybe you had a bedtime beforehand. You'd always be in bed at the same time every single night because you knew that when your alarm went off in the morning, you wanted to feel better. Maybe now you just go to bed when you feel like it, or when you've got the work done, when you've got the job done, or when your eyes just cannot sit and look at that laptop anymore. So you're working right up until the point that you go to bed. There's no downtime. You're neglecting your sleep, neglecting your eating, your healthy eating. And at the same time, you're starting to withdraw from social interactions. So if somebody wants to go for a walk with you at lunchtime, no, thank you. Do you fancy coming to the gym? No, thank you. Do you want to come for a quick drink? No, thank you. Should we do that shopping trip this weekend? No, thank you. Should we go for dinner tonight? No, thank you. So we start to create some of these changes for ourselves by neglecting our needs. And very often, some of these needs, if not all of them, are the things that allow us to be re-energized, that allow us to recharge. So again, if we are climbing up this stress cycle, if we're climbing up the stress ladder and at the same time filling up our stress bucket, whilst withdrawing and doing less of the things that allow us to be happy, healthy, and high performing, this isn't a great mix. And yet that's what tends to happen. Our stress goes up, our well-being comes down. So we've got this dual thing that's happening at exactly the same time. And we can maintain these kind of dual neglecting what it is that we need for long periods of time, right? Burnout can take years to manifest. Depending on the pace of everything, obviously it can take months, but a lot of the time it can be creeping up on us over a period of years. Number 4 then is this displacement of conflicts. What do we mean by this? Well, this is where we start to blame others, or we blame our situation for things, right? All of our problems, including our stress levels, are nothing to do with the fact that we're not eating properly or sleeping properly or doing any of the things that allow us to feel recharged, right? It's you're the problem that's causing me at work. If you only did this, then I would be okay. If you only did this, then I would be able to change this thing. If you stopped doing that, I would be fine. If that team over there stopped being the issue, I would be okay. So we start looking for situations and or people to blame. And we can be quite vocal about these things. We don't start to look inwards. We're not so, actually, I've only eaten, 3 meals over the course of the last week and I haven't had any more than 3 hours sleep. That's not the issue. You're the issue that I'm stressed. That's what we begin to kind of build in ourselves. So we start to displace. We begin to let go of any kind of accountability. We're deflecting all of these things that are happening around us because you must be the problem that I'm stressed. It's not my fault. It's all of these other things. We can then maybe revise our values. This was a really big one for me. And actually, when I started to come through the end of my first burnout, I was so not just shocked, but in almost like heartbroken that I had allowed this to happen. But part of this revision of values is where our work becomes much more important than our friends or family. And I've always said it's family first. I've said that since I was probably knee-high to my parents, right? Family first. It's all about family first. And it wasn't that I consciously decided to start neglecting the needs and wants of my family and friends, but it's that the work became important. Remember, we said a few kind of stages back, right? We become addicted to work. And if we're in that stage, if you have experienced or you know anybody that has experienced a level of addiction, it's the addiction that becomes the focus. Nothing else matters. But in the case of burnout, it's the work that's the addiction. And we are putting, and we say, I'm really sorry that I had to work late. I'm really sorry that I wasn't there for, I don't know, parents' evening, dinner, lunch. I forgot your birthday. I forgot what to. We're apologizing for it because we genuinely don't mean to be doing it. But our brains are focusing on the work. It's like nothing else matters. So our friends and family can move to the bottom of the pile. Number 6 then here is that we start to deny that there are any problems that are being created at all, right? We become more intolerant. We perceive others, and I'm not saying that you don't work, right? We've probably all got some people in our workplace that we would label with all of these things, and we shouldn't, right? The judgment tells us something else completely about ourselves. But probably in most of your workplaces, you would be able to label some people within your organization as stupid, lazy, demanding, or undisciplined, with or without getting to the point of burnout. However, I'm not saying those things are right. We need to do something to eliminate our judgment, because as I said, that tells us something else about ourselves. But we've already started to blame everybody, right? I'm saying you're the person responsible for my stress. That team over there are doing this. That team over there are doing this. I wouldn't be stressed if all of you just got yourself together. By the time we get to this point, we're getting to have no intolerance at all, no patience whatsoever. We all of a sudden stop delegating because there's no point giving it to you because you're just stupid and lazy, right? You won't understand it. There's no point giving it to that. It's just quicker. It's quicker and easier if I do it myself, because that, I don't have to then rely on all of your stupid questions. I don't have to rely on all of this stupid stuff. And of course, I'm kind of going through this in quite obvious things that we might be saying. We might actually not be verbalizing any of this. We might just be thinking it. And we become much more protective, right? We want to wrap our arms around all of this work and all of these tasks. And we just want to take hold of this stuff and do it all of ourselves, because our thoughts are everybody else is stupid or lazy or incompetent, or they don't care, right? Who do you think you are, leaving work dead on 5 o'clock every night? Just lazy. That's the point that we can get to. That's the point that we can be thinking. These are the conversations that may be taking place over Slack or around the water fountains or in the kitchens, depending on whether we're working remotely or in our offices. But these are the thoughts and conversations that are likely to be taking place. Number 7, then we really, really start to withdraw. Again, like we were saying earlier, in terms of neglecting your own needs, this withdrawal can be really, really obvious. You just begin to withdraw from everybody. Maybe you start to withdraw from all of the things that you used to love. Again, all of the things that would recharge you and reset you and rejuvenate you, you just stop doing. The people that you used to spend time with, you begin to withdraw from. The things that you used to enjoy, you are withdrawing from. So you are avoiding, you're dreading these social interactions. And again, you'll see here that it's the use of alcohol or drugs will increase. Now, I can absolutely say that my drinking was going up. Who doesn't love a drink? I don't drink at all anymore. I could be doing with a 3-day hangover when I kind of realised that drinking was not doing what I needed it to do for me anymore. But my drinking was definitely increasing. Might have a drink at lunchtime because we were out doing, and everybody else was drinking at lunchtime. I've never, ever done lunchtime drinking. I was going for a drink after work. I might be stood in the bar car on the train on the way home. I might then open a bottle of wine when I get home. My weekends were about going out and having it. We need to go to the pub. And I wasn't at the point of addiction. I wasn't at the point of alcoholism, but my alcohol intake, the consumption of alcohol, was definitely increasing. And yet my withdrawal from every other situation was decreasing. And sometimes I've never been like a lone drinker. I could quite happily have gone and sat in a pub on my own just to have a pint or two or a glass of wine or a vodka lime and lemonade. The big thing that started to increase for me around this stage was my spending. I started shopping because I wanted to feel better, right? Which can come onto some of this and some of the other stages that we talk about. But these odd behavioral changes, right? Changes in our behavior. We become more impatient, maybe become more aggressive. Maybe we're snapping more at family and friends. And of course, this is again an add-on effect of what we were talking about a couple of slides ago, right? If everyone around me is lazy, stupid, and incompetent, and if that's genuinely the thought that we have, we're neglecting how we're eating, how we're drinking, we're neglecting our sleeping, we're drinking more. Maybe we're smoking more, maybe we're spending more, we're stopping doing all of the things that help us to be happy, healthy, and high performing. So it's really no wonder that we're becoming more impatient, more snappy, and more aggressive. And it can be at this stage that other people start to notice some of these changes within us. It might be it might be around this stage that we start to really notice some of the changes in ourselves because that's not like me. And we may start to become a little bit more apologetic for it, but we don't know what to do to change it. We can then get to this stage of depersonalization. And again, you'll see it says here this feeling of being detached. So seeing neither yourself or others as valuable. Right? I don't belong in the family. I don't belong in this team. I don't belong in this friendship group. I can't really relate or connect. But at this point, personally, for me, I would say that I completely disconnected from my body. I began to be experiencing lots of mental and physical signs, emotional signs of burnout. Again, go and check out one of the earlier videos on the 12 signs of burnout, or on the signs of burnout. This is the 12 stages of burnout, but go and check out the video on the signs of burnout. I was beginning to experience a lot of those things. But somehow this depersonalization kind of hit me in terms of it was like this thing over here was happening to my body, but I was okay. Like, yes, I had this pain, but it was almost like I could disconnect it. Like my body was this thing that was happening over here, and I could just carry on doing what I was doing, trying to ignore the pain, trying to ignore the signs, trying to ignore everything that was happening. And at the same time, feeling detached from everyone and everything around me and not really knowing why. But also thinking, well, it's because they're all stupid, right? They're all stupid and lazy, and I'm not. Look at me doing all the work. Look at me working hard. And this is how it can get us. We can, at the same time then, and as one of the kind of latter stages of this burnout, we can start to experience this inner emptiness. Remember, as I said, all of these things can be signs and symptoms of other things. And after this stage of inner emptiness, we can move on to the point of depression. But this feeling of empty, like, is this it? What does my future look like? Right? We begin to feel empty inside. I would personally describe this as a numbness. I began to feel numb about things in my life. But as they are talked about in these stages, this talks about feeling empty inside, not being able to overcome it, looking for activity, looking for ways. I called it, kind of ways to just feel less numb, right? If I could have a drink of alcohol and be happy for a night, then I wasn't feeling the numbness. I wasn't feeling empty. If I could buy a stupidly expensive handbag for that moment, the minute that I pressed pay and knew it was on its way, it was exciting. But actually, the expensive handbag would turn up and I just, it didn't do anything, but I was looking for something in that moment. I wanted something that made me feel alive, that made me feel full. And that's what this can look like, this inner emptiness. Again, it says here, mine was spending and my drinking was still increasing. But at this stage, I wasn't necessarily drinking every day because actually I didn't have the energy for it. But I would, maybe at a weekend, I was binging a lot more. I was smoking at the time. I would smoke a lot. My drinking had become much more binge worthy. And actually those moments of let me just buy this thing, it was like I was constantly buying the new thing to wear at the weekend when I went out to get absolutely, drunk to the point that I couldn't stand up, because that was my stress reliever. 11, then we get to this point of depression. And again, depression can materialize differently in all of us. But these feelings of lost, feeling lost, sense of loss, feeling unsure, constantly feeling exhausted, like no amount of sleep that I was having was making me feel any better. I was crashing at weekends. I was working all week, stealing energy, if you like, from next week to get me through this week, crashing at a weekend, spending all weekend either in bed or being unable to move, but almost like preparing myself to get ready for work on a Monday morning. And of course, my alarm would go off on a Monday and I would be on again. Because we can paint on the mask, we can paint on the smile, we can say, this is me, I'm brilliant, I'm just going to keep going. But the future, I cannot carry on like this, right? Nothing about our future feels positive. Everything feels bleak and dark. And then our 12th stage is we get to the point of burnout. Now, I kind of call this like the kind of over the cliff moment. We've gone through all of these stages. We get to this kind of off the cliff moment. And for me, the pinnacle off the cliff moment, I couldn't even pick up a glass of water. A glass of water was too heavy. And you'll see here again that this burnout, the description can include total mental and physical collapse, time for full medical attention. The numbness from the depression and the point before that had become just an emptiness. My body just felt like an absolute dead weight. I couldn't pick up a glass of water. It felt like too much. Some of my clients and some of the people that I talked to in burnout, well, literally, I could just sat and stared at a wall for 6 months or 6 weeks. I couldn't get myself out of bed for a month. Just felt this sense of nothingness. And of course, this is what we want to avoid. This is why I talk so much about the burnout prevention. Now, the number one cause of burnout is still globally toxic workplaces. We cover that in another video, but the number one cause of burnout is still toxic workplaces. But if you are neglecting your needs, if you are working harder, if you are pushing harder, if you are becoming addicted to work, not doing the things that recharge you, if you are withdrawing, if you are becoming more snappy and more aggressive, neglecting your family and friends, not putting yourself first, not paying attention, not doing your exercise, not eating the nutritious food, not sleeping properly, all of those things added to a toxic environment, it's a toxic mix. You can, of course, reach burnout in an organization that's not toxic if you are doing these things. You may have left a toxic organization and got into an amazing organization and still found that these things are happening. Remember, burnout can take a very long time to create. Can also take a very long time to recover from. So we need to be aware of all of these things. But ultimately, as I say to everybody, burnout prevention, we are all responsible for it. And if you can focus on you and your needs and what it is that you need to be doing, thinking, feeling, nurturing, nourishing yourself, then we can stop you getting to this point of 12. If you need any more resources or information, obviously you can click subscribe on this video. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn. I do lots of other additional posts about that, or you'll see my website here, kellyswingler.com. Head over to kellyswingler.com. I have got a growing library of resources over there. There's a burnout assessment. Again, it's not a diagnostic tool, but it is a risk assessment to help you assess where you may be from a burnout perspective for you and your organization. So if you need any additional help, if this has been useful for you, subscribe, give us a follow on LinkedIn, or head to kellyswingler.com for additional resources. For now, I'm going to say thank you for watching. That was quite a long video as we've kind of gone through, but thank you very much. And I hope to see you again next time. Take care for now. Bye-bye.